At LSI, we don't just follow trends, we help shape the future. Welcome to Behind the Win, the podcast where we break down the biggest moves in tech, innovation, leadership, and government contracting. Here at LSI, we're bringing you exclusive conversations with the minds behind groundbreaking advancements, disruptive strategies, and industry-defining wins. From retail to tech, defense to government solutions. This is where you get the insights to stay ahead. Let's go behind the win.
Welcome to Behind the Win, where we explore the leadership behind economic progress and innovation. Today's guest is Ryan Starks, who recently stepped into the role of President and Executive Director at Economic Development Corporation of Utah after leading the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. He helped bring over 13,000 jobs and over $16 billion in capital investments to Utah. We'll dive into how Utah is winning at economic development, building effective public and private partnerships, and leading with purpose in a fast-moving world. Ryan, I'm excited to have you here, but I've got some fun questions before we dive into some of the other ones, though. But we do this with some of our guests, just this or that, so listeners can get to know you a little bit better.
Awesome.
So, early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Are you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Is your wife the same?
Yes.
Okay, good. It's not good when they're like us and we're totally different. Suit and tie or jeans and sneakers?
Jeans and sneakers all day, every day.
Okay. PowerPoint or whiteboard sessions?
Whiteboard sessions.
Agreed. I like that. Okay, this is the big one. I should have saved this one till the end, but Utes or Cougars?
Go Cougs.
We'll let it slide. Okay, book or Netflix binge?
I'm going to say book.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would too. I like it. St. George golf or Park City skiing?
Park City skiing.
Okay. And then Red Iguana or Cafe Rio?
Cafe Rio.
Yep, me too. Okay, I like it. And no offense, no one take offense. He loves them all in Utah, but those are the faves. Okay, Ryan, congratulations on your new role at EDC Utah.
Thank you.
You drove historic wins at GoEO. We talked about them a little bit in the intro. Over 13,000 jobs, over $16 billion in capital investments. What key lessons should other states learn from Utah's approach?
Economic development doesn't happen overnight. And so I think biggest lesson is consistency and focus. So if you can focus on what it is you want to do as a state and then work to achieve those goals, then I think great things are going to happen. The other lesson, I think, is just putting in place infrastructure to accomplish your goals. So the state legislatures put together different tools and programs like the Economic Development Tax Increment Financing Program, or EdTIF. That's been the mechanism to help attract many of these companies and help spur that job growth. The other part, though, is understanding all states have rural components too. Utah has 29 counties, 24 of which are rural. And so in 2021, we worked closely with the legislature. We modified the EdTIF. So we created a rural EdTIF, or we call it the RedTIF.
Yep.
And that became a mechanism to drive growth. And so we saw significant business expansions in rural parts of the state that we'd never seen before. And so not just having one tool in the toolbox, but being mindful of the different opportunities across the state, being focused, working hard in partnership with public stakeholders, with private stakeholders. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, but if you're patient, good things will happen.
So consistency. And most people know you from GoEO, but what does EDC Utah do?
So I've been with EDC Utah for the past 3.5 months, and I am just blown away by how much good they do across the state. So EDC Utah works primarily with GoEO, but also with counties and cities, with private sector partners to help drive economic development. And so, for example, Provo City, that's a new investor. We'll work with Provo City. We'll put together kind of a research brief that talks about opportunities to attract companies. And then we'll go recruit companies to Provo City. Another example is the Utah Inland Port Authority.
Yep.
And so there are about a dozen port sites across the state right now. They have a tax differential, they call it, which is kind of the equivalent of a EdTIF. It's their property tax incentive. So how do we make sure that the manufacturing company that's looking to expand connects with the inland port. So we talk to site selectors, we speak with industry leaders, company leaders, and we just try to pull everything together. Ultimately, what a win for EDC Utah looks like is getting an incentive through the GoEO board. And so everything we do, it's in partnership with the state, with public and private sector, parties. The other thing that's just kind of a fun realization is EDC Utah connects so many dots. So we have general contractors, engineers, attorneys, architects, accountants, everybody that's involved in the life cycle of development comes to the table, and we can make referrals. We may have a construction company meet with the site selector, or we may have a project that selects Utah that we then can plug in our partners. And so really the ripple effect of economic development is significant. And we just try to be the conduit for those projects back to private sector businesses. And so
That's amazing.
the state does its thing with incentives, and it's so impressive. We try to get in the weeds a little more and bridge the gap.
That's great. And I don't think until I came here to LSI, I mean, I knew what economic development was as a definition, but to know that groups like EDC Utah and everything, we need companies to come in here, right?
We do.
And that's the hard part. I was at a event last night, and I had a few of the mayors telling me that folks are just against some of these bigger places like a Home Depot and things like that coming into the area. But I mean, what do you tell kind of folks like that are scared of change and scared of growth? I mean, we need it, right? The incentives of us in the state getting people to come here not only increase our job workforce, but what are some other, added benefits?
There's a saying that I like. It's, we need to shape growth, or growth will shape us.
Yep.
So being proactive with economic development actually enhances our quality of life. And it's not just filling in, every spare corner of a city or a county, but it's getting the right type of development. So that's what makes Utah different, is we're really focused on attracting the right types of industries. And when I say the right, I mean industries that provide high-paying jobs,
Yep.
companies that invest back to the community, that offer scholarships to school programs, that sponsor sporting events. Like, it's all about the private sector investment. So if we can get the right types of industries, aerospace and defense, for example, tech, software, AI, healthcare, and innovation.
Well, and I think people don't realize how much of a part you guys played, whether where you're at now or where you were before in like Silicon Slopes, right? That you got big companies to come here, and the legislation and GoEO or GoEd at the time, whatever, that's what pulled those folks in. So you had those high paying jobs, and they got those incentives. So there's places like that where you say, yes, let us help shape the growth, so we don't just have random companies or industries coming in here.
Yeah, and then if you think of an Adobe in Lehigh, you think of the big campus they have, how many hundreds of high-paying jobs do they provide? But then even the property tax relief to Lehigh City that just that one building pays, I mean, that keeps taxes low for residents. And so it's kind of a win-win across the board.
For sure. You've just kicked off at EDC Utah with partner visits at various different sites, just highlighting Utah as a hot market. How do you maintain that kind of momentum?
I think we need to tell the story and continue to tell the story. We can't back off of that storytelling, because otherwise we grow stagnant. So I think EDC Utah, the state of Utah, working together with our partners, we're the cheerleaders for economic development. And so visiting the counties, visiting the cities, meeting with site selectors, going to conferences. U.S. News and World Report listed Utah as being the best overall state 3 years in a row.
Yep.
That doesn't just happen accidentally. It's through strategic planning, through wonderful partners at the state and private sector investing, making it so that we have this quality of life. So I would just say storytelling is kind of the key to what we do, being present, maintaining an environment where people want to invest, connecting the dots to provide opportunity. It's so much fun.
And I don't think it's news to any of us who've grown up here, right? That Utah's number one for 3 years, and that people love. Again, at an event last night, everyone's like, oh, they came here to Hill for
Mhm.
a tour and then had to go, then they were moved a couple years in different places, but ultimately ended up coming back here. So many of those
Yeah.
people, we see that, especially in this area in Davis County. And so I think Utah's amazing. And you guys, make it so that people want to come back here for sure.
Absolutely. And it's really all about the jobs too. I mean, people want to come back here because our economy is really on fire right now.
Yeah.
And we have our struggles just like other places throughout the country, but it's a great place to live. It's a great place to work.
You've spearheaded initiatives like Utah Rising with the Salt Lake Chamber. What made those partnerships successful in aligning vision with results?
It's a great question. The Salt Lake Chamber has done a masterful job of really championing this Utah Rising initiative to think long term. So as we think of the 2034 Olympics,
Yep.
what do we want to look like? What's our infrastructure? What's our energy, our water, our housing? And these are the elements that Utah Rising's tackling. And so the key is we can't do it alone though. It's not just the private sector and it's not just the public sector that's solving all of the world's problems. It's coming together, putting together some of the best creative minds in a room to solve for these challenges. And it's really been rewarding to see some of the results and some of the ideas come forth. The legislature will take some of those ideas and legislate, invest money into solving some of the problems. The private sector will invest money in ideas. So really, that's the key. It's been really rewarding to watch.
Well, and I think something like the Olympics is, and maybe I was too young the first time it came through a little bit, right? But I loved it, right? Because I was like, all the cool people that came and the infrastructure that came for it really tracks front run, like all these things that started because of that. And I don't think people understand that it's such a great thing for it to come again because it kind of just bolsters us into that next, century too. So. Ryan, you've worked closely with World Trade Center Utah and others to coordinate economic development throughout the state. What advice do you have for aligning incentives, timelines, and culture between those public and private partners?
Well, I'll just say this. So the state's blessed with an abundance of really good partners like the World Trade Center Utah, like 47G, like BioHive. I like to say EDC Utah is part of that conversation.
Absolutely.
And so what we do is offer support to the state in a way that the state really needs. And so even if you look at LSI and some of the good work that you do with the Apex Accelerator, the state can only push the wagon so far, and then it needs good partners to continue to carry the water. So with the World Trade Center Utah, they have a very clear mission of helping companies go international. EDC Utah has a very clear mission of helping international and domestic companies come to the state of Utah. We can then plug into other associations like BioHive or manufacturers. We can work closely with the 47Gs of the world. And so when you put it all together, it creates this ecosystem that's really powerful and really nimble.
Yep.
And so now we have strong leadership, at the government level with Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, working with these partners. And really, without all of them working together, we're not going to see the same level of results. So it's been really remarkable to see.
And I think, so we had Pete on the show, a few months ago, and I think it's great to hear you guys all have this perspective of with the public and private partnerships, right? Is also finding where you guys have all figured out what you're good at and how to work together. And that's kind of what we said when we brought up like with Apex is, you guys want the numbers and stuff. And it's not that we don't care about that. We love helping people, but ours is like, we're a private. So we want money, right? We want the revenue that comes in. So it's like finding that niche and like that sweet spot of who cares about what and how you can complement each other.
Absolutely.
You recently reflected on 6 years at GOEO, saying nothing in life is more constant than change. How do you lead through change with intention and focus?
I've learned that change management is a very difficult thing. And so whether it's running an organization and making changes or leaving an organization and, working for a very similar one, I get very attached emotionally to people and to programs and processes. But having said that, I've learned that if you take the emotions out and if you're very clear on a strategic direction, going back to that whiteboard question, who is it that you want to be? What do you want the organization to look like? How do you navigate that change management? I think pulling people together, giving them input and insight into the process really yields important results. And so the way I've done it is just remove the emotion, focus on the end goal. It's kind of that think of the end in mind, or have the end in mind when you start the process, and then navigate it. I like to say that I try to do that in a way that's collaborative, inclusive, and caring of other people. But sometimes it can be really tricky. For example, when I was at GOEO, the legislature asked us to remove the Utah Broadband Office and relocate that to UDOT.
Yep.
And so that was a team of 7 or 8 people who we cared about. They were family to us, but helping them understand kind of the broader picture and the policies, and giving them a voice so that they felt like they had some say into the process went a really long way.
Absolutely. That's a great example. You often talk about team first approach and refer to your colleagues as family, as you just did. How does that mindset influence your leadership and workforce development strategies?
I'm very much a reversed pyramid guy. I think it's important to have vertical structure in leadership, but I think good leaders can pull people along and give them a seat at the table and allow them to have decision-making authority, or at least input into certain processes. I think when you do that, you start to create this relationship that's not just a colleague, but it's really a family working together. In your family, Sarah, you probably make family decisions and have councils. I think it's important in the workplace to do similar things,
For
to
sure.
get input from the kids, so to speak, to get input from all stakeholders. And so for me, I spend so much time at work with my colleagues. I have to like them. I have to trust them. Everything we do, it's predicated on trust. So with that mindset, I think it's easy to kind of adopt the family mentality that we're all in this together. We're going to sink or swim together. And I think that motivates people to give their all. They're not just showing up for a paycheck, but they're showing up for a cause.
Absolutely. And, I think what I love that you said too is, you try to remove the emotion. And what I feel like maybe in my experience too is that doesn't mean we're ice queens. That doesn't mean we have hearts, right? It's that we're data driven and goal driven. And then that doesn't mean that you don't bring that emotion back in at some point, right? But while you're making those choices and stuff, I love that. For business and economic development leaders across the country, what steps can they take to replicate Utah's awesome success in attracting talent and investment?
Well, I think it really starts on a few things. So we have a culture that's second to none here in Utah. Our people work hard. There's a can-do mentality. We speak 131 languages. And so creating this culture of working together, collaboration, I think goes a super long way. But at the end of the day, there's still a bottom line that a company has to make. And so having a tax structure in a regulatory environment goes a really long way to helping companies feel comfortable in expanding into the state. That's what we've seen time and time again from different companies investing into Utah is, hey, there are 50 different states we can invest in, but we feel like Utah wants us here because of the culture, because of the economic climate. And so I think those two things really go hand in hand. There's kind of a legislative policy piece, but then there's the culture of the people piece. And then just giving them the opportunity to invest into companies, knowing that there's going to be a strong return. So those are a few things that come to mind.
I love that. In your experience, what are the must-haves for a public-private partnership to succeed?
I think it starts with trust, and it starts with great communication and collaboration. And so as we think about some of the public-private partnerships that I've been part of, the goals have to be the same. The definitions have to be spelled out. And then let's just get to work and trust each other. And again, going back to the relationship that we had when I was at GOEO through our Apex program, we really saw LSI as an extension of our team, not as a competition. And so just, embracing that trust, communicating often, looking for opportunities for wins really goes a long way.
Yeah, and I think it's a true testament. There's funding like Apex or E2E, some of the state programs that we've worked for, for the folks at GOEO and when you were there. And those are replicated in other states. What they aren't replicated in other states is how you guys run them. And it's so different. And they're always so interested in us telling them how Utah runs them, right?
Mhm.
And so I think it's such a true testament to the work that you guys have done, and everyone throughout the nation seeing it for sure.
Yeah, just this morning we hosted a delegation from Peru, including the congressional president, and they're representing companies and the government of Peru. And so we had the World Trade Center Utah, we had the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, we had the Salt Lake Chamber and EDC Utah there to welcome and work with and support this group so that they then can navigate Utah's system to invest. And so really that's pretty remarkable. I even commented to the group, like, I don't know that you're going to get the same group of supporters in
Right, that's a heavy hitting team.
in any other state.
Yep.
So it's really just working together for common goals.
That's amazing. Where, if people want to find out more about what you guys are doing at EDC Utah, where do you point them to?
Yeah, we point them to our website, edcutah.org.
Okay.
But we also have a variety of different events, programs throughout the year, webinars, networking opportunities. Many of our people and investors and supporters just want to know what's going on with different projects. So we have different reports that we can share with them. But really exciting things are happening at EDC Utah. We're growing our membership base. We're increasing our investment levels. We're doing more to promote Utah's economy. So again, edcutah.org.
That's amazing. Any events that are coming up you want to plug?
Yeah, we have our annual meeting coming up September 4th.
Okay.
This is going to be at the Red Butte Garden. We have some exciting announcements to make at that time, some key partnerships, and
can anyone show up?
If they're a
contact
member. Me, and
Okay.
we can certainly find a place for them.
Okay. Great. Ryan, thank you for your time and insights today. Utah's approach to economic growth, collaboration, and leadership offers a powerful model for other states and communities. So we appreciate it.
Thanks, Sarah. Great to visit with you.
Thank you.